What's up, what's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we discuss the art, science, and business of comedy with comedians and comedian adjacent. With this episode's guest, Tate Griffen. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humourist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for joining us as we continue our interview with comedian and promoter Tate Griffen. Enjoy.
So I was in Tennessee for a show, and I open up. I do this bit real early on where I say, I'm in the worst shape of my life, but I'm more financially, I'm more financially secure than I've ever been. Those facts are never brought more sharply into focus than yesterday when I spilled a pocket full of change on the ground, and I only bent over to pick up the quarters. And I tell that joke, and then at the end, I'm telling a story. Like 40 minutes later, I'm telling a story about how I have to work at this retirement home. I'm doing this show, and all these ladies are asleep, and nobody's paying attention. And this one lady in the back, just as I go, and this is how I finish out my show. I'm like, they're doing their thing. This lady in the front sleeping, out of nowhere, she just goes, "Change the channel, Herbert." Like she's dreaming of her dead husband telling me to shut up. And I'm like, so, I'm standing here not sure what to say. I grab a drink before I tell my last joke. And just as I put it up to my lips, I hear a lady in the back row, an old lady go, "Oh, wait a minute. I get it. You only bent over to pick up the quarters on account of you're fat and fucking lazy." And that's my last line, right? And I say it, and it's stone cold silence, and it's because I did not say the joke at the beginning of the show. I had done a show the night before and did it there, and I just forgot. It's like, and they're not just blinking the light. They got that get the fuck off the stage light going.
Yeah.
And so I just leave on that, and it was just the worst, most humbling feeling ever.
There was a movie, and I can't remember the movie, but the guy goes, "You see that light? That's your career dissipation light." That's what I just thought of when you said so. Now, I recommend that every comedian does at least one show for seniors.
Sure.
It's a totally different beast. It's not like your average club. It tries you. It won't break you. It could break you. It shouldn't break you, but it should expand your knowledge of what an audience can be.
Well, you're a musician.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. I always think of like performing for like seniors, like folks in their 70s and 80s and 90s, right. Seniors. Yes. I think of that like you're in comedy. It's the equivalent of playing an acoustic guitar. Yeah. It takes a little more effort, and you have to like learn, and it might leave you with some calluses, but you're better off. And then the next time you're in front of a younger audience, you play that electric guitar, it's 10 times easier.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like I did that up in near Philadelphia. I went to like this retirement castle, and I go up to the room. When I get there, they said, there's golf carts and tennis courts. I'm like, okay, this is a vibrant community. I get there, like, just go to the third floor. If you can, just do the show in the cafeteria. It's a real pain in the ass to move these people. And I get up there, and there's like 30 people in there, and they're all like very, very old. I asked the lady, I said, "How old are these folks?" And she said, "Well, the baby of the group's 91.
God damn.
So like, forget the internet. They don't know what that is. That like, it really makes it to where you have to come down and connect with people and meet them where they're at. Yeah. And that can be easy, and it can be really hard. But I think it's fun, and it's weird. It's like, it feels like the stakes aren't real high. Nobody's going out to write something about how shitty you were. They're happy just for you to be there. Yeah.
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 Now, do you have any? Okay, I hate asking this question because I know that most people want to say me, but they shouldn't feel pressured. Who are your comedic influences? No, I'm just who are your comedy influences
aside from you?
No, aside from me.
Yeah, my number one of all, like, it's funny, I say like my heart and my brain. In my brain, it's George Carlin. In my heart, it's Louis Anderson. I love Louis Anderson. His his hour from 1984, it was called Louis Anderson Live at the Guthrie. It's on YouTube for free. And there are more than 100 callbacks in a 58-minute set. It's pure genius. It's PG, like it works for anybody. He sets up who the characters are in the first 5 minutes, like his mom, his dad, his brothers. You know, he sets all that up to where throughout that whole hour, when he's referring to them or act like them, he just has to change his facial expression. You already know who he's talking about.
Yeah,
it's absolutely, in my opinion, it's the most genius hour of stand-up comedy that's ever been produced. He's just amazing. So he's number one for me. George Carlin. I like a lot of Stephen Wright, more in the sense that I wish I could write like him, like that, that nudist joke, the show of hands, that leans into that a little bit.
Yeah, but I like this. He did a joke where I just loved it so much. He was talking about how he was drunk, and let me see. I think he says he was drunk, and he went to go into the house, and he put his car key into the door handle.
Yeah.
He started up his house and drove it around the block or something like that.
Yeah. my favorite Stephen Wright joke, you prompted me, so now I got to throw it out. My favorite Stephen Wright joke of all time. I walked by this cafe that says we serve breakfast anytime, so I ordered French toast during the Renaissance.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing. Yeah. I like Richard Pryor, Live on the Sunset Strip, man. It's is amazing. I might have said what that was. Was it Live on the Sunset Strip? Is that what it's called? Live on the Strip?
It was. I think so.
Yeah, amazing. I was a big fan of Richard Jeni. Remember him?
Yeah. Was that Platypus Man? Or am I thinking of someone else?
I don't recall for sure. He just did one hell of a. He was like Kevin Pollak. They both did a really good impression of Kirk, James T. Kirk, and John Mulaney. And I'm a big fan of John Mulaney. I like Fortune Feimster. I think she's great.
Yes. Now, in your family, because you have what, 9 kids and a wife? Or is it 9 wives and a kid? No,
somewhere in there.
Yeah, but do they think you're funny? And who are their favorite comedians?
My youngest likes John Mulaney a lot. My other daughter doesn't watch it at all. My son's a big Carlin guy. But I mean, to say I'm funny, I'd like to think I'm funny. Probably not with the material so much. Like we all have a good time and stuff. But it's funny in probably a completely different way. You know what I mean?
Now, in your circle of family and friends, who's the hardest one to make laugh? So if you make them laugh, you've got something golden.
Boy, that's a good question. I never really thought about it in those terms, to be honest with you. I find it's like if you're somebody, like I get a lot. I tend to be a people pleaser. And so I think I tend to find the folks that get a kick out of it, and those are the ones I tend to try to like get to break. I probably never was like, oh, this guy's not gonna laugh, I'm gonna make it my mission to get him to laugh. I'm usually like, fuck that guy. It's like I'm not interested in trying to change your worldview. If you don't think this is funny, you don't want to have a good time, fuck you. But if you do, like my dad was always somebody that was really fun to get to laugh. Like he just had a good time with it, and you know he's going to meet you halfway on it. You see those people are sitting in the crowd with their arms folded and they don't want to. It's like, why the fuck are you even here? Yeah,
well, probably if they're with a significant other, we know why they're there.
No, for sure.
I mean, I know when I write material, I have like an imaginary audience in my head, and there's basically 12 type of people in my audience. And one of those is the person who doesn't want to be there, that was dragged there by their spouse.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what would they like to hear? Because I don't want their night to be like a total failure. Like when they drive me home and go like, well, I hope you enjoyed yourself. Maybe I get them to get like one good laugh, but in a way it's like, but I try to get it so that there's something for everybody. But
well, like down at the Loft show, we've been running those shows for 3 years. And, during that time, right in the middle of that, like for 18 months, downtown Cumberland was all but shut down. They did like a $10 million renovation, but you couldn't park there. You couldn't do anything. And the show started getting bare bones. I mean, the room holds about 100 people.
Right.
And they finished up this whole remodel thing downtown about 4 months ago, and the last 4 shows we've done have sold out. But prior to that, I mean, there was times when I had 25 or 30 people sitting there, and there was times when there was 25 or 30 people, and there were people that I called and like said, "Hey, will you please come to this? I got to cover this." And those are the shows where I feel probably the most amount of like trying to get people to laugh. Like they're here as a favor. It's like when that crowd's there because it's people that are doing you a personal favor, that's when I start getting to anxiety ridden about it. But when it's selling out, and like last show, we had to turn away like a dozen people. It's like, wow, you want to be here. And there's a confidence in like, you're not doing me a favor, you know, like you want to be here and I just have to carry my end of you making you happy you came. And that makes it a little more relaxing for me, I think.
Now, I'm going to bring this up now, but you're in front of a wall of comics, comic books. Now you and Gary Kramer, I think I said his name right, have what's it called, Parafrenics comic book?
Yeah, Parafrenic. We our first issue came out towards the end of this past year. Number 2 is actually debuting today in Connecticut at the Indie Comic Con in Connecticut. He and I have been working on it for quite a while. He's had the character for a long time, but we are published through a company called Cosmic Lion Productions.
Right.
And so it's published nationwide. It's getting released actually, like I said, today. And then we also do a daily web comic. So it's a panel a day, Monday through Friday. That's kind of like the extended adventures.
So where can they see the web comic?
It's Parafrenic Comics. Just go to Instagram. It's instagram.com/Parafrenic Comics. And that's it, and it'll take you right to it. It's one panel a day, but it's an ongoing story. There's kind of
no end in sight. Newspapers, kind of like the old newspapers, like Marmaduke. But Marmaduke wasn't continuous, but Marmaduke was one panel.
Yep.
A day.
And what's nice about it is we have, I think, 30. We've done it because it's 5 days a week. So we've had it up for about the last, I think, I'm going to say 6 weeks now. So there's about 25 or 30 panels. So you can jump on there for no money and just start it the first day, and you can read the entire story up to this point. And I feel like just it's fun and it's relevant and it keeps you in front of people and it gives you a way to talk about the new stuff without getting redundant. It's like every day I got something new I'm showing you. Right. As opposed to, well, this comic book just came out. I know it came out 3 weeks ago, and I know you've heard me say come by it 100 times, but this makes it a little more fresh.
Now, who do you the two of you both write for it?
It's Gary's character, but he and I both write the stories for it. We kind of get into the Marvel way of doing it, like whether he wrote a story or whether I write the story. He then he draws it out and basically as it is, and then I go in and put the dialogue in specific. So like he had a story that he had done a few years back. He draws it in this manner. I have an idea of where the story is going, and then I go in and kind of punch up the dialogue. When it's a story I write, I usually accompany it with thumbnails because I've published some comics where I was the artist on them, and so I'll lay out the thumbnails of this is how I kind of the beats I want, and then similar to how he might write the story, but I punch up the dialogue. I might write up a thumbnail, and then he gets in there and really makes it come to life. But it's a fun thing. It's a fun relationship. Gary owned the first comic book store I ever walked into. I met him when I was 13, and we hit it off, and I've been working together ever since in some fashion.
Now, is there, again, I don't say it, as far as writing for comedy and writing for the comic book, how are those different in your head?
Well, for his comic book, there's already, like for his characters, there's already kind of like a set way of approaching it, like certain guidelines and things that you don't want to break because of the way that world's set up. When I'm doing my own, last Halloween, my friend Sean Henry and I produced this comic. It was called the Halloween Hodgepodge. Right. And that basically gave us a chance to do I think I did 8 or 9 stories in there, but they're all 2 to 3 pages. So it's
Right.
just kind of a gag a day kind of a flavor. Like there's not too much baggage.
Right.
And for that, I mean, there's definitely stuff I have in the comic that I've said on stage. In fact, I have on the back page. I'll shoot it over to you. It's the last page of the comic was the monster mic. And so
Okay.
each day was a panel of a stand-up that's some kind of hideous monster telling a joke. And it's just one panel. And yeah. Like my favorite one's my buddy Don John, his stand-up comic. He wrote it. It said, "You ever notice girls with the name Destiny don't have one?" Yeah, tell you what, he gave me one of the better dark jokes I have, dark spirited jokes. He said, "Hey, the other pilot that I'm writing, it features a geriatric supervillain team at a nursing home. It's called the Assisted Suicide Squad." Yeah, good stuff.
Now, over 10 years, I'm sure you've had a lot of places where you perform comedy that was not intended. God did not intend comedy to be performed there.
Yeah, for sure.
So, with that in mind, what is the best smelling place you've ever performed comedy, and what is the worst smelling place you've ever performed comedy?
The best smelling place?
Smelling, yeah, because the sense of smell is very triggering.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, I did a show for a family reunion one time, and it was in Westminster, but they had farmland, so the smell of cow shit was fresh
Oh
and
yeah,
stiff.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm glad you
and
mentioned that because I should never do a show at my house outside this time of year because they just started doing the fertilizer, and
yeah.
I was walking to my mailbox. I went, "Oh yeah, it's that time of year."
Well, and what it was one of those shows that was a showcase where there's like 8 or 9 people on
Oh
they go
yeah,
up and say, but everybody gets 10 minutes.
yeah.
And I think I was second to last. So by the time I go up, the previous 8 comics all had to comment on the cow shit. So you have to go up and just kind of pretend like it's not
Yeah.
happening.
I was like,
But
"What?
that'd probably be the
You wouldn't have smelled the cow shit if the first comic had just bathed." No.
yeah. Yeah. That's the worst one. The best one was probably at a weed festival. That's pretty good.
Man, I've never done a weed festival. Well, I've never done a weed festival. I know for me the best smelling place was a pizza shop. It was a
Yeah,
pizza restaurant, and I walked in and I was like, "Oh my God, this is this is
yeah.
heaven."
I got
And
paid in pizza once.
man, that's gotta yeah. That used to be a question that I used to have. I used to ask people, "What's the strangest currency you ever received for a comic?" But most people, the strangest answer was like over and over again was weed, 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 and occasionally I get the coke, but it was
Yeah.
like weed, weed, weed,
Well,
weed, weed.
they have a saying in pro wrestling, especially the indie guys, when there's hardly any money involved. It's like, oh, what was your pay? A hot dog and a handshake. Like they literally like go get a free hot dog at the concession stand, and thanks for being here. Yeah, yeah.
Man, no beer. That's wrestling. Wrestling is cheap. Speaking of, now, have you ever worked? I'm gonna work with Daryl Klein. He's out of DC. It's DC Productions. He does most of his shows are wrestling themed shows. In fact, almost all of them are now wrestling shows, and
Hmm.
they're basically older professional wrestlers you would know. I mean, let's put it this way. I'm not
I know. Okay, yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah,
because I sent it to Nick Tide once. I said, "Nick, do you know this guy? Because I think y'all can get together because it's like his shows are wrestler centric."
yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
I thought when I told Nick about, I thought Nick would let you guys know. It's like, maybe we can, I mean, it's the same. I mean,
Yeah,
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 it's like family. It's almost it's the same fraternity.
sure. Yeah, no, I have definitely seen that, and I think there was something a couple years back that was going to come up. It's weird. That was a thing I think before the pandemic that I was looking at, and
Yeah,
then 4 years goes by in the blink of an eye, and then it's something something else, something else.
yeah,
But
yeah. Now, is there anybody in particular that would make you nervous if you started your set and you saw them sitting in the front row?
um, well,
let's say living. Let's narrow it down because
I was gonna say, man, like
I
I'll
would
say
be upset.
my parents are dead, so if they were there, that would make me nervous.
Yeah, that's why I'm
Um,
changing to living.
um,
Yeah.
oh, boy. I don't know. I'd like to think in this moment that if it was like some comedian that had really made, like if you look out and like John Mulaney was sitting there, I'd like
Mhm.
to think that at the bare minimum they would recognize that they were once wherever I'm at, and they could see that I'm trying, I'm doing my best. I
Yeah.
try to tell myself those types of things. Um, it makes me more nervous if there's somebody in the crowd that's already heard my stuff and I don't know them really well. Like it's like you go to a room and whatever, wherever. Let's say you're in Frederick and there's 50 people there, and you know for a fact that 2 of them saw you last week. It makes me nervous that they're going to call something out, or they're going to, yeah, they've got a leg up on these people, and it's like they're in on my secret, and now I got to worry about that.
I had a comedian I'd worked with for a few times, and I told the joke, and he blames it on the alcohol, and he blurted out my punchline just as I got to it. Just before I got to it, I did the setup, and he blurts out the punchline, and
Yeah,
I just said to myself, well, actually, I said out loud, said, "That's a great line. I wish I thought of it." And then I had to think of a second punchline,
yeah,
in which I
yeah.
did. I thought of a second punchline, and so that moment made me a better comedian. So now I know that those things can happen,
Sure.
and because there's some punchlines, especially if it's topical, people are going to see the punchline coming. So it's more like the journey to get there, and you're hoping
Yeah,
that nobody yells it out. So now I have like 2 or 3 punchlines in those circumstances.
yeah.
But, but
Hey,
yeah.
hey, can we like pause for 1 second? I got to plug this phone in, and I don't want it to die on us.
Oh, sure, sure.
Yeah, sorry.
So we watched the first half of the set. Now we're all going to find out how it all played out.
So one of these Ford F-150 million shit-kicking nuts little dick trucks pull up, the giant wheels and shit, pulls up, the door swings open, these boots hit the ground, and I can't see his head because the truck is so high off the ground that the window kind of clears his head. He slams the door, and that's what I see, what I never ever expected. He's like 85 years old. And in my head, like I'm still trying to be like, oh, okay, and trying to pull it together, because again, my kids are on either side of me watching this. There's a room full of anticipation, and I'm just like, okay, we'll see what happens here. And in my head, I'm like, shit! The door swings open, and this guy has a hat on, World War II veteran, Omaha Beach, which means even if his parents lied about his age, this dude's 90 years old, he's a dang. He comes storming in, who's the son of a bitch that's trying to tell me they're gonna do my pizza and I'll come down there and beat their ass? Who was that? Who was it? That was me, sir, and thank you for your service. You're damn right, thank me for my service. I was 17 years old, storming Omaha Beach, and your ass ain't speaking German. You're 17, you sat in a damn beanbag chair playing with your Nintendo and your balls. Correct on all accounts, and thank you again for your service. I mean, I had to say Genesis, but it didn't seem like the right time to correct him. So anyway, this whole thing plays out as it was going to play out, and when it's over with, it was like a good life lesson, especially for my kids. I'm like, look, I thought I knew what was going to happen, and I had no idea, and I was put between a rock and a hard place here. Like, my choices are like what, beat up a World War II veteran, or do I just eat a little bit of shit from an authentic American hero? He gets out of the hospital next week. So, oh my God, that's funny! My name's Tate Griffen. Thank you guys so much. Please welcome your host back on stage. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You didn't miss much. No. No. Now,
Sorry about that.
I've heard you do that story probably 6 or 7 times, and I always like it when the guy walks in and you see who it is, World War II vet, and he goes, "Who's the asshole that's going to kick my ass?" And you say, "It was me, sir. Thank you for your service."
Yeah.
To this day, I mean, now there's 7 times. Actually, not now. It's 10 times because I watched it 2 or 3 times to prepare for this.
Yeah.
And I still love, even though I know that line is coming. It's the
Yeah.
way you look. It's the way you look when you say it. It's almost like there's a humility that you, after all these
Yeah.
years, you still portray that humility.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's one thing too about that is whenever he comes out and says that, I put a lot more emphasis these days when I tell the story on saying that's when I see his hat.
Ah,
World War II veteran, like to put the weight of it, so then they get an ooh. And it's like Omaha Beach, first wave, and he's like, "Who's the son of some bitch?" Blah 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 blah. And then the other hook I put in there now is like, and I'll be honest with you guys, I was tempted to blame my daughters, and that gets another pop.
yeah, that's something
Like,
because when you, that is a line I would almost, I think I would have thrown that in like 4 years ago.
yeah,
I wouldn't have waited so long to throw that in because it's funny, like, as you do this thing, you got my daughters on either side, and it's
yeah.
like you've already established that they're there.
Yeah. It was right there. I know, and I said it the first time it crossed my mind. Never, not until I was somewhere in front of people and telling that story, and I was like, "Wait, this could be a good line." I was like, "God, why didn't I think of that 10 years ago, or whatever?
Yeah.
5 years ago."
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I as soon as the first time I saw you do it, and you established with your arms that your kids are on either side, and then when the guy says, "Who's the blah blah," it's like, there they are, right?
Yeah, right here. That's great.
So, no, I thought that was, I think so. That was good.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I mean, it's one of those things that, like, again, I've seen it for a while now. I've seen storytellers who have a story, but you can tell it's not true because they keep changing things. Like, okay, it was an
Yeah.
85-year-old man, but I think it'd be funnier if it were like an 85-year-old woman. It was, but
Yeah.
you can tell. Let's put it this way: if that story didn't happen, I'd be very disappointed because I'm convinced that story happened pretty much the way
Oh
you said it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's a true story with the volume turned up just a little bit.
Yeah. So, and I feel that, because I get annoyed with people when they tell a story. Now it's different for us. Of like when we see the same people over and over again, you see the story evolve, and the
Sure.
audience doesn't usually get to see that. The audience doesn't see, like, them develop the story over years. It's like, oh, okay, ta-da, and that's it. Unless you have a following. If you have a following and they've like come out and you see it over and over again.
Sure. Well, that story there, I like the way I tell that story now. It takes about a minute less time. I use about 50 words less than I did there, and I get 2 laughs more than I got there. So it's like just trimming the fat and really getting it down to what they need to hear. I heard something a long time ago that said the editor is always right.
Now, so I have I've worked with a few veteran comedians in my time. And there's one guy who's been doing, like, I've been doing this for a little over 10 years. There's one comedian I've worked with. He'd been doing it for over 40 years. And television, used to write for another comedian on HBO. He's been doing this a long fucking time. And he's one of the two. He's only two comedians who actually have had enough impact on me that sometimes I'm on stage, I can still hear their advice in real time.
Yeah, and there's so few of us.
So, and one of the things he says is like, less words. It's like fewer words. And,
Yeah.
and so once in a while I hear that because I know sometimes, look, I know I ramble. But rambling and the story are two different things. If I have a bit I'm doing, sometimes he'll go fewer words, and it's like, got it, got you.
Yeah. It's like every word's a step towards the gag or a step away from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Hi, I'm Tate Fenderson, Certified Forensic Humourist and host of Done Way Past Funny. Thank you for watching our continued interview with comedian and promoter Tate Griffen, and please come back to watch more of our interview with Tate Griffen. And when you come back to join us, bring a friend.